Hello and welcome back. We're going to be going into our second best of 3 of the day relatively soon after what was a very quick one. We've had quite a big break when it comes to the B stream, and I know that Vince has definitely enjoyed himself, like had a bit of food, chilled out a little bit, and is quite thankful for Furia, I've heard.
Good lads, Furia, you know, putting it to bed quick. It kind of has both effects. On the one hand, it's nice to have a break to get some food. On the other hand, I get really tired. So I'm looking for this game to wake me up, to give me some energy. I think it could be a good one. I think it could be quite a close one, Tom.
Yeah, you have to hope so. Obviously, we are going to take ourselves a little bit of a look at the bracket just to see how things have been going so far. And you know what? I don't think, at least so far today, we haven't seen too many surprises, Vince.
Certainly not. I think we got enough surprises yesterday to last us the entire week, but I have a feeling we may get a few more between then and now. So whether today will provide one, I'm not so sure. I think FaZe will still probably take this, but I think c0ntact have some chances to at least get one of these maps close, as they did against Heroic as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other side of the group, though, or the lower bracket, I should say, could actually be a little bit more interesting. c0ntact versus Cloud9, two relatively new teams, more so because c0ntact have changed a couple of players. They went very close versus Complexity, and obviously we saw Cloud9 actually beat them. So I think we could have a relatively close match going on. Of course, that will be on the A stream at the same time as this one. So unfortunately, you can't watch both unless you do the, like little Twitch dual streams thing. But obviously then you mute Connor and Launders because we're much better, right, Vince? Right?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I'm not sure how many people watching this would agree with that, but whatever. We take what we can. Yeah, that's going to be a good game. I definitely would understand if people part ways with us here to go watch that instead. I think it could be a very interesting one. Then again, though, we've definitely not got a slouch of a game, and it should be mentioned, Tom, these are elimination matches now. You've already had your lifeline. You've lost. You're down to the lower brackets. You lose this, you're done. You're out.
Of course, we do have a little bit of an announcement, I believe, that's coming up to do with the Intel Extreme Masters Global Challenge. So we're going to check that out. It's not a video, it's just the announcement. I have been bamboozled, I've been fooled, but as you can see, it is just going to be based off of the teams, obviously how they qualified. You've got DreamHack Open 4, the champions, and obviously we're going to talk about a little bit how Liquid have come in and replaced EG due to the travel restrictions that have been placed on their teams, which is definitely unfortunate, but I don't know, Vince. That looks like an absolute banger of an event. Of course, that will be coming up, I believe, starting around the 15th of December. So it's a short break for some of these teams, especially with, I think, Blast and stuff like that coming in between and after. There's going to be a very busy schedule for the end of the year.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure it will kick off for next year as well. There's going to be a lot of events taking shape. It's been a bit of a strange year for many different reasons, but it's crazy to me that it's the 1st of December already, Tom. It feels like the year's lasted a decade, but also feels like it's lasted a week. It's so strange.
Well, I thought the red was because it was Christmas, Vince. I thought you were just on theme at this point, like already. I imagine your tree's been up for weeks. Like you seem like the sort of person.
Christmas music's always on. Yeah, definitely. 100%.
Don't you dress up as Santa as well? I heard that's coming over the next few days. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to ruin the surprise. But
yeah, exactly.
Either
you
way,
just ruined it.
We want to move on. We have got our game coming up, so we want to try and switch the focus a little bit. Of course, c0ntact versus FaZe is where we're going to be looking, and with both teams, I think, in need of a win. I think that's the best way to put it. Like FaZe, I think the way I've been looking at this team is that they have a lot of pieces that other teams are going to want. Like, if it doesn't work as a core, if the 5 don't work together, coldzera, if he goes off to Brazil, I'm sure there'll be success there. Brokey, he's looking like a superstar in his own right. Kyobi again within the Danish scene. Rain, we know that Apex would definitely snap him up at any moment. And of course, Olov, well, sure, there's a Swedish team that will have him at any moment in time. So I think both of these teams are one that if we don't see some success, either there will be more roster changes, or maybe in FaZe's case, like they've already been willing to sell off their best player, the player they invested so much money into. I wonder if they're edging away from CS in general.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. And you know, I might even go a step further, Tom. I think if FaZe don't get a victory here at this event, and even if they do, it may not end up mattering. I can't see this roster staying together for that much longer. I'm going to be real. I think with Nico going, this is more of a plastering over a wound, and I just don't see it lasting that well long term.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to come down to like what the sort of investment strategy is. Like, I think for starters, a proper in-game leader is probably going to be the plan eventually, because I don't know how it's necessarily going to work with Cold. Like, there are other people chipping in, and are they going to splash the cash again and maybe take a risk? Like, obviously, some people have mentioned Carrigan here and there. Maybe he'll get stolen away, although I feel like that would be a big mistake for Mouse Sports, especially with the current roster they have. But we know that the power that FaZe can have. Also hearing behind the scenes that FaZe a lot of the time are fairly hands-off with their team. I know Yanko did an interview recently and mentioned that. So maybe some of these players want people who are going to be more focused on Counter-Strike. But we will have ourselves an interview with the FaZe guys themselves. Maybe they can shine some light on it.
And this is where iDisbalance is going to try to look for as many opportunities to kill as possible. Kirby with a good flash can avoid 2 targets and take a shot.
The first game against Spirit felt close. Could have gone our way, but we didn't play in the fashion we wanted to.
Kirby, good headshot.
I don't know much about c0ntact Gaming. I just know Snappy, as he said, a Danish in-game leader. But if I remember correctly, they have some good individuals, and don't think they're in the best shape like us. So let's turn it around there.
He throws another one. Also misses the mark. Kirby wins the duel because of it. Kirby on with the 4K.
I predict we're gonna beat c0ntact Gaming. We really need to win that game. So I hope we're gonna go out there and play confident and just play the way FaZe plays, right?
Yeah, with both of these teams, I almost get the feeling of the sort of too many cooks mentality. There are a lot of playmakers, a lot of people who can get aggressive, and one of the things that worried me was the interview with Rain earlier. He was fairly blunt. Like, he sort of just went, yeah, the communication doesn't seem to be good. There don't seem to be people really pumping each other up anymore, like getting things going. I'm sure Nico would have been a big part of that, like an emotional player, but it goes both ways. And maybe in the bad sense, sometimes been the good sense when they need it. And if they're just going to fall quiet when things go wrong, that is truly a worrying factor. But we do have to have a look at the other side of the coin, Vince. We have got c0ntact Gaming, a team as well, who seemed to do fairly decently yesterday. The questions we have, though, is this, again, going to be a long-standing roster? Because a lot of things haven't gone well for them. And considering when they were picked up, I believe they may have even been in the top 20. Like, they had managed to, like, get themselves into, like, the playoff stage of a major. Now they're outside the top 50, which if you're c0ntact, you're a team in Flashpoint, that's unacceptable. Like, we were hearing that if you're not in the top 20, you're going to get fined. Well, they're going to run out of cash soon.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, they've gone through their own trials and tribulations. Obviously, we've seen Emmy going on to greener pastures potentially if he gets fully picked up with Godsend. They're a team that I think there's a lot of question marks over what's the consistency like. I don't doubt that on their day, their skill ceiling's pretty high with the likes of Esperanto. The guy's obviously a very good player. Yesterday, Rigon surprised me. The Swiss player. Hadn't really seen a great deal of him, and he looked pretty sharp. But can they perform? What's their strategies like? That's the other question that we asked often yesterday against Heroic. They had these crazy trades. They got these beautiful entries, these passages of play that make you think, geez, these guys absolutely could be a top 20 team again. But then when plan B came around, it seemed like there was nothing. There was only fumes. And that's my issue with this team. I need to see more strategically.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's going to be one of those cases for the team. But obviously, again, we can hear from the side themselves. We do have an interview with c0ntact Gaming.
Honestly, we played pretty good on especially T-side Mirage. We lost all 4 pistols, which is a big factor as well in the result when the game. It wasn't like we were blown out, but me personally didn't have the best individual game, and then it's obviously gonna get harder. But yeah, I think in general we lost a bit of focus in the end on Mirage T, and then for CT, we in general just played too scared, I would say.
If anybody's gonna know the Danes of Heroic, it would be the Dane of Snappy. He is well placed, gets the job done in the end on the frag. Expects there to be other players here, and with holding them within this site, he's just being so irritating.
I think we have a shot against FaZe. They're obviously a team full of star players, but they're kind of in a weird limbo, I would say, right now, where I don't think they have their full identity yet. So I think there's a chance that we can definitely upset them, but it's obviously going to be a rough game.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's something we've sort of touched upon at the beginning. I think that for FaZe to lose would be a pretty poor performance from them, but at the same time, they're not in a good state themselves. So if c0ntact can perform, if Snappy can work his magic, and if he can get those individuals firing, then sure, there is going to be an opportunity. Now, moving away from this, Vince, the veto for me is actually something that comes down to being quite interesting between these two teams, because I feel like there's a lot of crossover. Both of them don't really like to play Vertigo, but at the same time, c0ntact don't play Overpass either. So I feel like if they play this smart, they ban Overpass, then the ban of Vertigo also comes out from FaZe. So then both of them don't have to play the maps they don't like, which is what they've done. The question for me is who's going to pick Mirage? Because that has been the first choice of both teams. And again, it depends who I feel is playing the veto better.
Yeah, the two first bans that we were expecting, you already touched on this before. I think Mirage, sure. Nuke could be another map that potentially gets picked up. We know both teams definitely don't hesitate to play this. Then again, you pick the map, you're basically starting T-side. Some questions come in, but Train gets picked up. Interesting from c0ntact, which means they will be starting on the T-side more than likely. And I wonder what that would bode for FaZe. Like, do FaZe go with Mirage?
I think it would be guaranteed as a third map, so I think they're not going to. And actually, yeah, they go for a Dust 2 instead. I don't think either of these teams are going to ban Mirage. I'd be very surprised. Like, it's both their pinnacle map. It's been, as said, the one that we've been looking at for c0ntact for literally years with the different iterations of this roster. So if they were to ban it, I'd be very surprised. Actually, FaZe are going to ban it out. I like that. Add a little bit of spice. It takes us to Nuke instead, which I don't think c0ntact will be too unhappy with. But at the same time, this kind of now sets them up that they need to win Train. Now, historically, Train for them is actually not a bad map, or more so, it's not a bad map for Esperanto again. Like, I think this is one where he's had some of his highlight plays. It's one in the past where we've actually seen him pick up that secondary AWP quite regularly. So I sort of wonder if maybe that's part of it. And with their current results, it's not an awful map, especially with how much they played it recently. The question we always ask, though, is like, can they beat some of the best teams? Either way, we are going to be looking at the Twitch result. I didn't even know that we did the Twitch pick. So I'm guessing the chat is going to have bamboozled us. They've done it without us. And I imagine everybody's phased up. But we'll see. Oh, 90%. Yeah, I expected that c0ntact may not quite have as many fans as FaZe. So no real surprise there. But even if you're just picking this one rationally, I think you do have to go with FaZe, even with the trials and tribulations of this team, Vince. Even if you look at them pound for pound, like you're looking at c0ntact with up-and-coming players, where you're looking at FaZe with players who are already there.
The thing is, though, Tom, I'm going to say the same thing I said yesterday when Godsent beat Astralis. I think in terms of the picks and bans for the veto, this actually is pretty good for c0ntact. FaZe have only played Train 3 times. It's their second least played map in the pool.
Well, either way, Vince, we have got a break to come up, but after that, we are going to be getting into our first map. It's c0ntact, who are going to be facing off against FaZe. One of them is heading home. Well, one of these teams, c0ntact or FaZe, is going to be heading home after this best of 3 series. Two teams that have attempted to create all-star rosters by picking up young or maybe experienced talent, I guess you could say, in the side of FaZe. The question is, can all of these stars align for them to take a victory, or are they about to, well, basically receive a fairly embarrassing defeat? An 0-2, but losing to Team Spirit and c0ntact for a team like FaZe, that would be unacceptable.
100%. That would be, whichever way you spin it, a massive, massive failure. And I think that would probably spur a lot of questions into action. Sure, they've just gone through a change. things aren't exactly crystal for them, and that's what Snappy was kind of touching about when he was talking about, you know, maybe there's a way in. They haven't quite found their kind of way forward. They haven't found their identity yet. Maybe there's a way in for that one. He also touched on another point, though, and we will be getting into the pistol round very shortly, that their pistol record yesterday was abysmal against Rogue. They didn't win a single pistol round, and that's always going to put you in a horrible spot. So let's hope they've been working on them.
That's quite surprising, actually, because I would say the pistol rounds in general, unless you have a very specific strategy, kind of comes down to individuals, and that's what c0ntact have. Like, you would expect someone like Esperanto, Spinks, for example, was very, very good to sort of pick up a few kills in the pistol rounds, but yeah, as you said, they didn't manage a single one. Nonetheless, maybe a bit of a surprise, but we're going to be getting into Train first. Now, this has been one of the most played maps for c0ntact over the last few months, so for them, it's not necessarily surprising. I guess it's just in comparison to the map of Mirage, which they've been playing so regularly as of recent. Nonetheless, it's not in the pool this time. We get a bit of a change, Vince, and we're already into their T side.
Can they fare better in the pistol? No, and they can't, Tom. Spoiler warning, they're gonna get wrecked. Oh my god. That's one of the quickest pistols you'll ever see. Range just pulled off an absolute blind over 3K.
Don't even get to build up anything. That's the one thing that sort of excites me a little bit about this roster is obviously Nico leaving has left a hole, but it seems like they've got the players that can fill it. Like a couple of the wins they had, I wrote down the stats. It was like Brokey went, I think, plus like 30 and then plus 31 and plus 18 in the two series that they managed to win. I think he definitely has that star potential. It's just not quite consistent yet. And someone like Rain, who I feel like has always been put on the back burners. Like obviously, there was a year where I believe he was like top 10, top 5 in the world. But he always seems to be one where it's like, oh yeah, he's that player within Team Nico, or he's that player within like another highlight player. Whereas now I feel like he could easily take up that mantle. We've just seen in the pistol round, the man's skill is off the chains.
Yeah, and you won't find many people that are his teammates that have a bad word to say about him. In that interview that you highlighted earlier and you touched on with Yanko, the player that he gave a shout out at the end to was Rain for just being the best teammate you could ever ask for. He's a very humble guy, incredibly skilled, not having any issues in taking some of the more difficult roles. But it is going to be Rigon while Flashbang taking off the head of Olof, and that opens up some business over on Ivy.
Oh, this is where they were scariest yesterday. I sort of made up my own stat that I genuinely believe c0ntact won more rounds where they didn't have a full buy than when they did. And the interesting thing there is they won 0 pistol rounds. So that's not including pistol rounds. Their force buys were pretty good. They did a lot with the Deagles, and they're starting to do it again, Vince. That's already another. Kirby goes down. Brokey looking around, trying to find the angle onto one of these players. He spots out Esperanto, his Baltic brother, but the fact is it's Spinks doing most of the damage. Rain already tagged, and Spinks is just going ham. 3 kills with the Deag. Cold, the only one remaining, but they are at least tagged.
Tagged low and in range of the Brazilian. He's been in so many situations like this over the years, and he's come out ahead so many times. 2 players exceptionally low, 1 bullet away from death, and Spinks, the only healthy-ish player that he has to really contend with, and it will be Spinks, the Israeli, putting the Deagle to use, fitting with the 4K. c0ntact bounced right back, and as you said, Tom, it always felt like when they were a little bit weakened when it comes to weapons, they're at their most dangerous and devastating.
The man, the myth, the deceased. He's not going to do anything this time. And, yeah. This was ridiculous from Spinks. Like, every single shot was clean, and although I know what to expect from Esperanto. I've been watching him since he was like, I don't even know, 14, 15, playing in like the Lithuanian leagues, playing matchmaking and showing that he's already better than me. Definitely was humble back then as well. But when it comes to players like Spinks, I haven't necessarily seen too much from him. He really impressed me yesterday. Like, individually so solid. And that seems to be the thing with this roster. Now, Esperanto, I'm hoping we get to see his secondary role when it gets onto the CT side. He didn't pick it up yesterday. It's a role that's sort of been taken. And Kyobi's actually making this one relatively costly. Rigon's just killed himself. Now we're in a 2v2.
Oh, Cold Zero with the Deag from downtown puts it in the head of Esperanto, and there's Kirby. FaZe Clan returning the favor Whatever c0ntact can do, they can do better, it would seem. And now c0ntact, they're in a position where they may have to force. Snappy was down to $1,500, and they force buy. Let's see if the sequence can continue.
I have a feeling this is going to be a brain melter of a game. Like, it just... There's going to be so many things that don't make any sense. Both teams seemingly fairly unstructured in the way that they're taking things, which I'm not necessarily surprised at that by FaZe. Like c0ntact taking up that sort of in-game leader mantle and trying to put the pieces back together after we've seen Nico leave. On the other side of things, well, we had the other interview with Snappy where he said, even I don't know what my team are doing half the time, which I won't lie. That's not a good thing to say, but it seems like at this point he's just rolling with it.
Looking to roll out with some frags additionally with their 2 AKs. It's about to say 2 pistols, but Rigon has upgraded from Spinks to the Galil. Don't have any smokes or flashbangs though, just the Molotov. And some M4 spray, but it is actually c0ntact that are coming out well, with Olofmeister going in for the spray alongside Kirby, and 3 kills in quick succession will put FaZe into a 3-on-1. It was looking grim for a few moments after Main got aggressed on, and Snappy, the Danish element of c0ntact, stumbles against his compatriot of Kirby. 3-1 the score, and c0ntact now finally have to tap out an eco.
Something I also noticed from yesterday's matches is that Snappy almost lurks. This is not going to be a comparison that people enjoy if they're a fan of Snappy, but in the way that Happy used to do, where it's like it would either be really good for a flank if his teammates get the kills, but if they don't, it just seems like he's completely out of the round and doesn't really achieve too much. And it always became infuriating watching Happy towards the end of his career in, well, at least in Counter-Strike, where you would just be sat there like, why is he there when the rest of the team is on the other side of the map? And I got a few similar occasions here where I'm just sort of like, okay, well, surely he should have been wrapping around Ivy a little bit sooner if he's actually going to help his team.
Yeah, sometimes just it does feel disjointed, you know, and I wonder if that's, again, one of those situations where they're trying to find their identity just as much as FaZe are. It's something that Snappy talked about FaZe. But maybe the same could be said, you know, reflected in the mirror. And that is the issue that we both touched on when they were against Heroic. That there were so many rounds where c0ntact had poor buys, they were in awkward situations, and just raw skill came to the forefront. Good flashbang from c0ntact, and he follows it up. Otto goes down, and c0ntact, they can't really gasp a breath. Like, the second they start pushing in, they just get repelled.
Back for more. Trying to find out information, but maybe slightly an overface. Already had the man advantage, and that's always the thing. Like, this map is one that allows for an awful lot of aggression. That is a really nice nade as well, and Rain, he just turns the tide once again. Doesn't overface, doesn't overcommit, just smokes off and falls back. They're probably going to have to reposition because Kirby's spot is not really safe anymore if they don't have pop control. The remainder of the T's, well, Ivy is being watched, but it's watched from afar, and this almost feels like a domino effect. I feel like if one kill goes the way of the T's, then everything falls apart. Kirby, though, maybe not. He's trying to hold it together. He's the tape for the team, and he will keep things going for FaZe. It looked worrying, but somehow he managed to get both kills on one player in main and one player in pop at exactly the same time.
There's 2 main positions where I think Rain is maybe the best player in the world. One of them is Ramp on Mirage, on CT, and the other is Pop Dog. I feel like he is so good at playing these 2 positions, where he always seems to have the right read, knows when to stay and when to pull back. He has a very good read of the situation. I feel like he's such a well-rounded player, where some people fully rely on aggression or they fully rely on passivity and being more disciplined. He can do both. He can be an entry for FaZe on the T side if they need him, or he can be more of a supportive element. I think he plays Pop Dog so damn well, Tom, and it's definitely going to be a position that I'm looking forward to seeing how he evolves in the upcoming 10 or so rounds.
It's also one of those spots as well where statistically if you're doing incredibly well, that probably means that the other team's screwed, because it's a really difficult position to play. And that's something as well I'm sort of highlighting earlier, where it's like, although it might be a role he's very good at, it's not a role that's easy. Like, it always seems to be some of the tougher positions on the map that he is actually renowned for. Ramp is another one. Like, chances are you're going to get rushed and flashed and pushed very aggressively in these two spots, but he seems to thrive. Now, the start, again, has not been great. I expect c0ntact to do much better on the CT side of this map, but they need to sort of get that momentum building in their favor on the T side, because although we have seen in the past a lot of CT-sided maps, some teams have started to do a lot better on the T side, at least in general. I think online Counter-Strike has definitely helped with that. Olov, though, under pressure from the Deeks, but they are doing something that even Heroic struggled to do yesterday, which is seemingly keep this quite clean.
This is the passivity element of that hold as well. Him and Kirby are playing in tandem so well, anticipating an eco, don't want to get rushed by Tech-9s or any of that kind of garbage, and so they pull back. They allow c0ntact to come to them, get that crossfire set up, and they get a clean sweep of a round. c0ntact now, though, do have an AWP in the hands of Otto. He's had a bit of a slow start, 1 in 7. But I don't think he's had an AWP until this point, Tom. Do correct me if I'm wrong. So maybe this is where he can start to show his finished power. He has had one already. Okay, there you go.
He got insta-killed by c0ntact on B, and then Esperanto picked it up. So
that was the really
had
push. Right.
Yeah. He just got owned. I think it was glass cannons. This is the first time he's actually had it with Kevlar. Yeah, he had it for such a short time. I'm not surprised you missed it. And again, like, they get the opening pick, and then there's no real fallback. There's no real push together. One man pushes out Ivy. There's a good reaction from Olov, but it has come back to a 2v2. Otto's AWP finally being able to be put to use. However, Cold and Olov have had a pretty good start to this game. Bomb yet to make its way towards the site. And you can actually see Esperanto's trying to make a play. Now, we see him do this quite often. On Mirage, in fact, he did this with the bomb, which both of us were left holding our breath, but somehow he managed to make it work. He's walking backwards into Ivy, though, and needs to make sure he catches this close player. He is going to check and wins the duel. That may be the most important duel of the round, because that allows them a lot safer plant positions, although I'm a little bit wary for Otto, because he's currently holding. If he goes down, this gives Cold a real chance.
It doesn't. Cold doesn't actually have to go out and peek, but he does for your information. I was going to say, if he sat in there and waited for the bomb to get tickled, it would be effectively 2 separate 1v1s. But, of course, we had the benefit of seeing all the information, the minimap, and all that good stuff. No way c0ntact could have known. And even though the first few kills did go the way of the CTs, we're now seeing that c0ntact, they can stand their ground. They can deliver, even when they're up against it. But FaZe Clan straight back into another buy, albeit only $350 for Olaf and $450 for c0ntact in the bank.
Nice set of grenades. Obviously, a lot of utility needs to be used in A main in the early stages of the round. You see a lot of players trying to push out into Olaf. Interestingly, we may see him do that a little bit later on. I wonder if he calls it out as, guys, there's one... Actually, wait, I'm not going to say that out loud. That sounds suspect as hell. Moving on. It's going to be Esperanto up aggressive. And he's managed to catch out at least Rain before he falls. The bomb yet to rotate in. And look at the flank that's coming in from Otto.
Well-placed Molotov. Kirby on 14 kills, by the way, with just 2 deaths. A player that's been under a fair amount of scrutiny over the last year or so. One point was at the very top of the world. Does seem like FaZe will be going back for a save, though. It's the AWP and the AK that will traverse into the next round. Doubtful that c0ntact on a pretty weakened economy will want to throw these guns away. So at least c0ntact, though, is starting to get ahead of steam on their T side of train. And we discussed this yesterday, Tom, that, well, and actually a bunch at the DreamHack Open November, that even if you do have a rough start on the T side of train, as long as you can get that 5 or 6 round mark, honestly, you've done a pretty decent job. So don't take your eye off the ball here, c0ntact. You've got every chance of getting a really solid half of Counter-Strike under your belt.
Yeah, especially now with the financial constraints coming back in for FaZe. They did well in some of the earlier rounds, but we saw a few entries coming back. Did he shoot and then jump? I feel like he did. I feel like that wasn't quite as impressive as it looked. Maybe my eyes are just too slow to actually pick up on it, but either way, it's going to be aggressive again. Snappy, he's almost looking to be that entry role now. We saw him lurking around Ivy in some of the earlier rounds and has just switched up the pace completely. Hasn't had a massive amount of success, but this time again, he will get rid of c0ntact. That aggressive main position has been a problem so far for c0ntact. I think they will also know, however, the likelihood of rain being close.
c0ntact perched up in the ramp, decides to actually pull back. The timing's worked against him. Down he goes. Snappy trying to spray at range. Brokey, though, holds the line. But realistically, only holding the line to pull back on the safety harness and go save again. Because c0ntact's aggression on B, after getting opening picks on A, has been a bit too hard for FaZe to contend with. It basically left c0ntact all alone in a really awkward position. And they've made the most of it, and a lot of credit to c0ntact. A lot of those rounds that FaZe were picking up looked incredibly one-sided. We're never really in it. Otto has the right idea, but doesn't really want to throw this AWP away unless he absolutely has to. There is also a flank element coming in from Rigon, but he's very slow. May not get in amongst the action anytime soon. And so FaZe should hold on to their 2 weapons, but c0ntact are now on a spree. 3 in a row.
Really nice start from Snappy. This round in particular, he was integral. Like, he not only denies both players in the A side, but it means there's no rotation. Nobody's going to be running in that direction from then onwards. Also, the timing that they catch onto c0ntact is nigh on perfect, knowing he's likely there alone. Look at the scoreboard as well. You got c0ntact 14 and 3. Rain currently up there with 9, and then the rest of FaZe have been a little bit quiet. And I sort of mentioned it previously, like the series that FaZe have actually been able to win, it's been Brokey just going off the chains, like having one of those star-studded performances, and thus far it's been a little bit slower. Now he does have his ult back into this round, but his opponent is also with 1 in play. Rigon, however, is going to go down trying to push the edge of the smoke, and that's almost too easy a kill for Olaf to take.
Olaf Leicester's been around the block too many times to catch him off guard, and Ivy when he's holding that angle. This is a map that in many of his previous teams, he was a monster on. He used to wield the AWP quite a few times. Curious to see what happens in the future if they do go for double AWPs, and Brokey showing that they don't need to. As long as they have 1 in his hands, he's worth 2 players by himself. And now Otto, the opposition AWPer on 8 HP, doesn't really have too many options. The bomb is dropped back towards the T side of the map, near the spawn. And so that 3-round spree that I was discussing before, seeming like it's going to come to an abrupt end, and that's just in time for FaZe. They can now start to build that economy. No kill forthcoming. Olaf will pick up the AWP. No, actually decides against it. Wants to hold on to the AK. That's fair enough.
Yeah, decent round for FaZe, and we do see Brokey step up and get himself a couple of kills. But it's sort of like these kills that you're seeing that it almost feel like freebies, and it's what we see a lot on Train. Like, I feel like there's so many teams that just play this T side incredibly loose. They don't necessarily have a lot of like decent executions to fall back on, and most of the time it almost seems like they're just trying to catch timings onto FaZe at this point, which hasn't necessarily been going too well thus far. Back to B they go. They managed to pressure Cold last time, and a rotation will come in early from Brokey to try and support his Brazilian teammate. He'll be playing a pretty close angle, one that's fairly easy to get overwhelmed. Also has an incendiary ready, but he's not going to be throwing it out. Just holds the angle. Instant first shot, second as well for c0ntact. And now, well, they've got to go for this. The bomb's down on the deck, and he's making this look easy. They might have found him earlier on the edge of the smoke, but this time the timing wasn't so lucky.
There's very few players on the planet that you would not want to feed 1v1s down in a claustrophobic angle than c0ntact, because he is going to punish you every single time. The guy is just fire. Do not feed him any fuel at all. Snappy, 1-on-5. Similar situation to Otto in the previous round. No control over the bomb, and really just maybe trying to think of some ideas for the next round in terms of a call. And c0ntact puts the 4K down range. Excellent work from the Brazilian. And now c0ntact, they're back into an awkward position where maybe some deagles will come into play, but not too much else available.
It's been a weird half. I don't really feel like c0ntact have tried anything even remotely strategical. It's been very, very reliant on picks. There was obviously the pistol round they managed to win off the back of Spinks very early on. Then we had Snappy in a couple of rounds who basically just ran out of A main and managed to catch them out on B. Other than that, I've not really been impressed with what they've been throwing in so far. And in terms of utility usage, yeah, there have been a few basic smokes, but I don't feel like they've been particularly utilizing them too well. Not that I really expected much more, but again, it has to be Snappy finding a kill. Now they're going to patiently wait on the edge of the smoke and go for the same play, but there hasn't been a rotation back yet. Brokey is just waiting. No presence shown on A, so no reason to rotate.
None whatsoever. c0ntact actually backing off so he won't get affected by some of those flashes that are tossed over the top. Now that he has a secondary smoke put down onto ramp, was tossed in from the connector rotation. I think it was Brokey that threw it in. Allows him to stay alone again for a little bit longer. Flashbang through. Countermeasures deployed. Doesn't have much left, though, in surplus. Only one flash to go, but now has Brokey coming in. Here come the swell of grenades, blotting out the sun with smokes. c0ntact steps up to the mantle, puts 2 kills down range, 2 HP to his name, and tons of damage to Snappy. It's a 2-on-2, but c0ntact has given them a very good chance of clutching this one out. It's going to be a post-plant on top of everything else, and they have 2 AKs to come back with. Esperanto's timing is slightly off. He got a bit sidetracked, I think, from that flashbang that threw him out of a loop. But Snappy will get the drop on the first. No idea as to where Olofmeister is. He's about to find out firsthand. The bullet sprayed out from the top of the train. Snappy behind in terms of hit points. But Olofmeister turns around at the worst possible moment. He outgames himself.
I think he thought that Snappy had already run around the back of Oil and was starting to worry that he completely missed the timing. And in fact, ends up feeding the in-game leader that extra kill. And it's very intriguing to me that Snappy actually decides, okay, I'm not going to use the M4. Did he have no bullets in it? Was that the case? Because he just went for the Tech 9 out and out for the clutch, but, wow, almost killing Olof with his own weapon. Maybe somebody finally getting some revenge with the Tech 9.
And they're not slowing down either, Tom. Snappy feeling it after clutching that 1v2. Now going back out into the open again. He's had mixed success. A couple rounds he's got plenty of entries and sometimes picked off first. 3v3. Olof holding it down on the trains, dropping down as Spinks gets the upper hand onto the veteran. A Swede will have to be on the bench for a little bit longer before the end of this half takes shape. Rigon had a bit of an off game, was one of their top players yesterday. And c0ntact doing laps around Ivy will be joined by Brokey, the Latvian, down to just 42 HP. Post plant again. I've spotted one of the 2 players in the form of Spinks. We'll have to think twice about re-peeking on his low HP. Now a HE tossed in case he's playing up close. This is mainly to bait out for Rigon, though. The bomb is planted for his location, but now that his teammate's gone down, it may force Rigon into some overextended peaks, and in doing so, he gives himself up to the Brazilian, who devours him whole, and FaZe will have a 9th.
They actually didn't have a kit in that retake as well, so a bit closer than maybe suspected, but a 9-5. FaZe looking good. Of course, we're still yet to see what they'll come up with on the T side. And this is one map where if a team's disjointed, I'm actually more worried about their T side than anything else, because even if you can call a successful game, it's one that's super reliant on the entry frags and super reliant on you having the good utility usage to force players into more awkward positions. So far, c0ntact, they've relied again. Like it's Snappy who's brought them through the majority of the rounds, even if he is only on 9 kills. And some of the stars of the show have gone a little bit quiet. Still, though, if they do get even 5-6 rounds, which they have on the T side, it's workable. Like they can do it on the CT side, although they might have to break the train of losing pistol rounds.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You're always going to be on the back foot when you do not win the last 5 pistol rounds that you've played in this tournament. So maybe that will change and their fortunes can, as a result. Doesn't seem like they'll be successful in the last round of the first half. This being their choice of map, starting on the T half, but did mention earlier on, you get 5 or 6 rounds, it's not too shabby. They're still in this. Everyone barring Rigon alive. Otto closer to demise than the rest of his teammates, and 2 of them outside of Pop Dog, maybe going to be going in for a pop flash into a push. Esperanto, typically one of those players that you're looking at to perform well. As Olofmeister opens his account on Ivy. He goes down, but damage inflicted. Also saw the bomb drop out. They know it's an A hit. They'll have to position accordingly. Caldera again, and again is showing his worth. And his team are a player to the good, but for how much longer is yet to be seen. Otto goes in for 1. It's another even trade. 1v1, slight health advantage favoring Esperanto. And the Lithuanian up against the Norwegian, looking to come out with a wide swing and gets it done. They do end in winning ways, but they'll be trailing 9-6 going through to the second half.
Sometimes I let it all in, but you can exercise the demons and get me out my head. You show me what love is. Home is more than where my stuff is. When I'm out of control, you bring Santa to my soul.
Seen the days in the dark too long, all the gray between the right and wrong. Takes a warrior to sing this song. When the glory and the pain is gone, it's the failures that make you strong. Can you see the path you're walking on? We're moving up in the world. We're moving up in the world. We're moving up in the world. We're moving up. This is a warrior's world. This is a warrior's world. This is a warrior's world. This is a warrior's world.
Resurgent towards the end on Contact. It was looking like it could be a bit of a bloodbath, but they only trail by 3. And we'll have to see if they can finally break the curse, Tom, of the pistol rounds. They're 5-5 in terms of losses up until this point in the tournament. They lost every pistol against Heroic. They lost the first pistol against FaZe here. And now you fear the worst for them if they were to lose their 6th in a row. Had a bit of a technical hiccup, I think, but we're back on track to get things underway. And let's have a look what FaZe bring into the round. Couple smokes, couple flashes, and a couple P250s. Pretty standard, especially on a map like Train, where there will be some further range confrontations, and you want that P250 as opposed to full blocks.
Yeah, we'll see. Even if, I guess the way we can look at it is even if they lose the pistol, they are very good at winning second round. So I guess we can look at that instead. But here we go. Snappy, good position. Esperanto going to be the one taking contact. But we'll see if they can actually hold this position. They're also getting smoked out from afar. So this could become quite awkward. In fact, Esperanto's going to opt to fall all the way back. And Rain has already got that opening pick. They look to try and pressure, and it's not happening, Vince. No miracles are coming alive today. 2 players remaining. Make that just 1. Snappy had a pretty decent first half, at least individually. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Okay, we got 1. He needs 4 more. An absolute miracle needed, and he's being surrounded, and Kirby denies. They are not very good at pistol rounds, Vince.
Bruh. Like, maybe just practice pistol rounds, boys. They're such an integral part of Counter-Strike. I mean, I know it's rough that 1 round can dictate so much, but...
What?
Okay, fair enough. Rain has just pulled off a worldie there. I don't know how you play against that, Tom. He just comes down the corner, insta-taps you in the head twice. Like, oh, fair enough.
How do you even see anything there? Like, what res is that? Like, that you can just see someone for 4 miles away for 0.1 of a second of a pixel. Like, you got, like, special glasses or something that I just don't know about.
He plays with binoculars on, mate.
The thing is, I saw a thing recently, which was like attachments for your phone, and it was like a thing where you could attach anything, and it was like a bloke who'd attach his phone to a telescope, and I was like, that's the most pointless piece of equipment I've ever seen. Deagles again! Spinks! He's so damn good with the dirty Deeg, he'll get 2. And I'm still going to go down. After plumps, this is so stupid. Every time! They can't win a pistol, but give them different pistols that kill people while they've got armor. They do absolutely... But maybe they should just buy Deagles in the actual pistol round. But Kirby, he's given them a damn good fight back. 3 kills already. Olov as well is waiting on the ramp. It looks like he's just playing the game of denying the defusal. And considering they don't have a kit available to them at all, they need to get this kill onto Kirby. He's, in fact, gone for the ace. Seemingly needed to deny the Deagles of this squad. He's going to go all the way around. Snappy eventually takes him out, but there is no time left on the clock. They survive what was looking like a pretty brutal round for them. And you have to feel bad for Spinks, because that's, again, he got 4 Deegs in round number 2. And then in the second half, round number 2, he gets another couple. So he's doing his part.
But so is Kirby. Kirby has really come alive. There's something about him in Train. He's pulled off so many mad plays on Train as Kirby, and he's on 20 kills with 8 deaths. A 4K in that last round basically gets them across that very difficult roadblock in Spinks. Putting contact into just the AK that they are able to save. Couple more Deagles in play. But when you have Kirby finding some of that old form, it does give you a bit of hope for FaZe in terms of maybe a bit of longevity. Maybe see if they can go further on in the tournament if they do bypass contact. Meanwhile, Frag's coming out, and it's Kirby again. This time he stands up for 2. Esperanto puts the Deagle in his hand and pulls the trigger onto Brokey. Kirby is pretty low, but so is Esperanto. The FaZe have so much time left, they don't have to overextend or overcommit.
It's interesting though. Like, they actually left the AK onto Snappy. So either it's just he had it, so he gets to keep it, or maybe the rest are just so good with the Deagles that they're just like, it's actually a disadvantage for me at this point to have an AK-47. The bomb being low is definitely a problem, and they're trying to slowly work out where they're going. coldzera's been spotted, but Rigon, his rough game continues. He was so good yesterday. Struggling now. coldzera should be heard. He should be, but eventually they're going to look in his direction. Shots not being connected by either side, and eventually he'll be closed out. The fact is, it was an elaborate ruse, but the bomb's still not down. It still hasn't made its way to the site either, and Spinks has found a Galil.
His teammate and partner in crime, though, has been decapitated, and that Galil may be short-lived. However, if he can get this first pick, even without a kit, he's made enough ground to get close to the bomb. to at least be able to flirt with the idea of pulling this off. And what a turnaround of a round it would be. He's guessed incorrectly, and this is actually going to take up a lot of time. So I think by the fact that he's gone for this decision, he will look to try and save the Galil. Look for Hunt onto one player, but the round is going to go the way of FaZe. Nice frag onto Olaf. He can trade up that Galil into an AK. That's a juicy little bonus, and unless k0ntact can shut him down from range, which he's not really interested in doing, he will hold on to it. But FaZe now double c0ntact's overall score.
We're seeing the form of k0ntact come back, which I have to say, like, when he joined this roster, I was quite surprised. I was sort of sat there going, like, he fits the bill of FaZe, but at the same time, we haven't seen the level of form that we wanted to for a while. This is a ridiculous performance, though. 22 and 8. He's been entry fragging a lot of the rounds. This time, he's going to take a nasty tag, and Otto finally steps up to the plate, puts him down. Esperanto has managed to miss the ladder, and because of that, well, I was going to say he gets burnt, but never mind. The Molotov doesn't land.
It is great to see him play more of an entry role. It's not one that you've seen him utilize too many times, and he definitely has it up his sleeve. But it always struck me as more of a kind of static player that used his head a lot more. Maybe this is one of the identity changes that Snappy was alluding to, that we will start to see some players go for slightly different roles or just see what works for them with Nico parting ways. Good shot from Otto. Putting down Brokey. Coldzera and Rain both low. Looking good now that maybe c0ntact will start to get some success on their CT side. It's been a slow start. FaZe winning 3 on the bounce, but it's not just winning, it's holding on to as many of these players as possible as well. Snappy nearly loses his life. Rain's been another player that started very hot indeed over on Pop Dog. Comes right around the corner, takes Snappy off. There's still 30 seconds, and they have the bomb under control. This round maybe hasn't been closed off just yet. Olaf flanking round the back. If he guesses correctly, Otto will be a dead man. He's about to find Otto, shuts him down with a headshot. 17 seconds, and now FaZe are pushing onto the site, but the timing is brutal. Rain at least deals with the threat of Esperanto. Going for the plant, Spinks goes through the smoke. Can he actually shut down Rain, who comes off the bomb? He was caught in 2 minds, and in doing so, he succeeded in neither. He doesn't get the money count up with the bomb plant, but he also doesn't clutch. It's really brutal. But considering, Tom, that c0ntact were in such a commanding position, to lose 4 players is actually going to hurt them.
Yeah, I guess the one bit of luck for them is that FaZe's money is as bad as it gets, really, considering the rounds that they've managed to win. Like, they've made things so costly over the last few that it really doesn't matter too much. If they can win this next one cleanly, it's not going to be a problem. Again, though, it's not look good for them. Like, we've seen some weaknesses as well. Like, as said, Brokey a lot of the time has been the sort of star factor when it comes to FaZe. He's not having a particularly good game, and I still think that if FaZe were not, well, basically just relying on k0ntact and Rain, this could have been a blowout. But luckily for them, there's been a few clutches going here and there. Another 1v1 that has been won by the side of c0ntact, and they've had a few of those in terms of their rounds. Esperanto won one earlier. We also had Snappy win it versus Olov. So it could be a far more dominant performance from FaZe Clan, but c0ntact are clinging on. This round, however, has to be a win, and it has to be clean, as you mentioned. If they lose too many players here, sure, there's probably not going to be a buy in the next round either, because of the money of FaZe still being awful. But Spinks again. I was going to bring up a stat that I'm fairly certain he'd have got more kills with a deagle than he had with a rifle, but hey, he's put the AK-47 to good use as well.
Yeah, I think that stat may have been overtaken now and overhauled. It's such a good angle, especially if there's no flashes or anything to really force him out of that position. FaZe came through with a force, barely had anything. I think they had an AK, which c0ntact will certainly accept that generous donation across. And now trailed by 4, but with just Glocks and pretty much $0 invested, surely that becomes 9. If FaZe could even get a bomb plant, that would be nice. And it's pretty standard that if you have no investment whatsoever, that your best hope of getting anything done is just a straight up B hit. Just run straight down, throw yourself into the blender, hope one of the players can cross and get a plant down, and that looks like to be what's going to end up happening here. They also take down Spinks in the process, but there's the 3K. Snappy with 2, and Otto finishes off with the nades. No bomb plants, but at least the casualty came down.
Yeah, that's a huge booster, though, for c0ntact, and they're not too far behind. I sort of mentioned earlier I would love to see the secondary AWP come out for Esperanto. I think this is one where he actually dons the AWP really well, but it's not something that seems to be within this roster so much anymore. So I think previously we saw Rigon do it, who has been having a bit of a rough time, so it might be a game changer. Nonetheless, looks like FaZe have their sights set on the A site. Bomb and 2 other players looking to go towards Ivy, put some pressure onto Otto. Hasn't had the best game so far, but we haven't seen the AWP from him much over on this CT side. And with a 2-man pick up, a bomb dropped, and only 1 man around that angle. It is, however, Kirby, who, as we've said, has been lights out so far. He's been fantastic, and he's going to get the kill. Swings wide, looks to make this a little bit more costly. It's a round that's looking in failure, but if anybody could win it so far, it has been him. He picks Rigon out of the air, but he is being flanked. Does he expect Snappy to round the corner? Peeking out into Ivy. A nade thrown would give the game away, so he needs to try and keep himself hidden. And Spinks, he is there to deny. A 10th round. The climb back continues for c0ntact. And again, Vince, not much money in Ghost's Heart.
Sorry, Tom, we've been casting a lot. I forgive you. A lot of games over the last week to 10 days. It's been excellent. I loved every second. Understandable if now and again we get tongue-tied, though. FaZe Clan looking like they've got their shoelaces tied these last few rounds. c0ntact have definitely stepped it up significantly. And although there's plenty of fire down, they have been extinguished. Just pistols in play on FaZe, and they look to get aggressive in towards Ivy. Another Molly's there to greet them. 3 players clumped up from c0ntact. They seem to have a great read of the situation. Otto bypassing the first shot to secure the second. And now Olof rips in with his Tech 9. It's 2 kills alongside c0ntact. Otto now has been put down, leaving Olof with an AWP to try and come round the corner. You began to believe. I was seeing flashbacks of the past.
I was about to say.
He just got wrecked. It's a feels bad, but it is 12-11, and that's a feels good because you've had 2 very one-sided maps today, Tom. We're finally getting a competitive one.
Oh, my eyes just like rolling into the back of my head, like it all going grey, and just seeing him run through long on cobblestone. Ugh. That plat position, him with the Tech 9, will give me nightmares for eternity, but thankfully somebody denied him at least. There is going to be a double AWP setup, but definitely not the one I was expecting. Now, we know in the past there was a time when Yugi was sort of on the bench. We still don't really know why. Personal reasons of Heroic. That's a very easy kill. But more so, Snappy actually used to primary AWP. So he can do it. Not bad at it. Same as we sort of talk about MSL. Normally a bit more of a static AWPer. And in this case, does look like he's going to be supporting the A site, just waiting to try and watch anybody on Ivy. Because of that early pick as well, it's allowed more of a rotation to help at least on the B site. But for now, it seems like pop control is the goal, and Rigon is the man on point.
Well, they flash him in for a peek. If not, c0ntact should have him. There's the flash. Oh, no, he whiffs the spray. Those are shots he guaranteed gets yesterday when we were seeing him play exceptionally well. And what an impact at 12-11 this could end up being. They honestly should have both died there, Tom. And instead, they'll be given the green light to start to aggress towards the site. Otto's fallen to the hands of Olof. Esperanto opens up from heaven. Can't see the bomb planter. It's in amongst all the smoke. And now the smoke begins to fade, as will Esperanto. Spinks at range, 19 kills to his name, doing plenty of damage to Kirby. Dropped down to 11, but more damage inflicted to Snappy. He gets tagged up from Brokey's AWP. He'll try and play possum up on the ladders, but the same could be said the other way round. They have themselves Kirby, who's waiting in the wings. There's the first. He'll spin around. He's baiting up enough time for Brokey to wide swing onto Spinks. And Rigon will be apologizing to his teammates because he knows that whiff cost them everything.
Either apologizing to his teammates or replacing some of his gear, because that is one of the, that's a mouse breaker right there. That's where you just want to launch it straight at the wall. And well, I guess in that case, you kind of hope he doesn't have a wireless mouse, because that must be so infuriating. Like, he's been having a rough game, and I think it's showing. Like, that will happen a lot of the time, where you just feel like you can't come back from any situation. His teammates are still looking to set him up, and unfortunately, like, that's sort of an unforgivable whiff. Like, that's a very easy kill. I think on any other day, he would have got one at least, like bare minimum, but likely two, because they were both completely blind. Now we have to look at what they've got invested into this round. The double AWP stays. Again, I'm a little bit disappointed we don't see it onto Esperanto, but as said, that might just be me reminiscing back to like the old crazy roster, which we are not quite there anymore. For the T's, though, this could be a winning moment. They close out this round, 14-11, and things are in trouble. Rigon this time, he does better. When his opponents look into his eyes, he's able to at least take one of them down. And in terms of a trade, losing your one weaker weapon in terms of a rifle on the floor, it's just not the end of the world.
Oh, certainly not. You can still bank on these 2 AWPs, but Rain just sat in bathrooms waiting for that push. Esperanto's also pushed up. He's using that pillar as a little bit of sanctuary. I'm surprised that Rain even tagged him. I thought he would go and check. 30 seconds. Snappy will be smoked off, allowing safe passage for the 2 Ts to push out. Otto, though, also on the back of Ivy, makes his position known before Brokey pushes straight through the smoke. Down the heart of Snappy. Esperanto will get Olofmeister, not anticipating the connector push, and now Brokey knows exactly where he is. Goes out aggressive. Oh, what a shot onto Esperanto, but he has to go retrieve the bomb. There's not much time left. There will be enough time, though, for the plant, and he goes for the risk. He plants it out in the open, knowing that the player was last seen in Ivy, but Otto was too busy looking towards spawn. I'm not sure why he didn't push in. Maybe anticipated it was a fake. But now Brokey has every chance to clutch this after a lightning fast scope into the first player. He's now positioned himself, the timing slightly against him. Going to be smoking down onto the site. Try and draw him out. Otto has no kit. There's a small gap in the smoke, and Brokey may have just seen him jump up. He wants to get up close and personal with his AWP. Gives his position away. There shouldn't be any time anyway. Even if Otto takes him down, Brokey's clutched this. What a play from the young Latvian.
Almost looked like he yawned midway through that clutch. Maybe feeling a little bit tired, or maybe it's a sigh of a relief, but either way, he gets the job done. The first shot was incredible, and more importantly, I sort of mentioned it at the beginning, this now puts the money in ruins for c0ntact. That was such an important round. Both teams' economy on the brink. You can see the rebuy here for FaZe is not particularly good. Pieces missing, rifles had to be dropped, and well, even after the purchase, if they somehow lose this round, they would be in some real trouble. Not quite the scope rifle I wanted, but Esperanto's had to fall down to a scout, and well, you can see there are severe pieces missing from the c0ntact buy.
Damage to Spinks is significant. Actually forces his hand to go back up on the train, and in doing so, there's a flash there to greet him. Had to turn to shield his eyes from the burn. But the AK still melts him. And with that evaporation of the defense being annulled at the back portion, there's 3 players waiting, but hefty mollies. 3 of them, a trifecta keeping them at bay, keeping them at arm's reach, while the Swiss player, the Swiss element, tries to come out into the open. But all he'll find is Olof and a Kirby, who is starved of kills. The bloodlust has descended. He is insatiable. Nothing but headshots, nothing but frags, and FaZe come out 15-11 in the lead. 4 map points.
It's been an impressive performance from him in particular, but I feel like there's been so many members of this roster that we were sort of sat there going like, will they perform, won't they? And we sort of looked at Brokey and went, okay, he's going to be the one leading the charge. I'll be honest, he hasn't really been needed throughout most of this game. When he's been asked upon, when he's been questioned, he seems to have stepped up, but you've had Rain performing to a high standard, cold0 on that B side, on the CT side, they couldn't touch him. And well, if it wasn't for, as said, a couple of sort of clutches out from Snappy, like Esperanto winning a 1v1, Spinks with a couple of multi-frags, I don't think this game would have been particularly close. Now they come in with an even worse buy than the last round. Pistols alongside a solitary rifle. Brokey, he's got to be careful here. He is alone, and if he goes down, it could be a rifle into enemy hands and decides against going further aggressive. However, Rigon, he wants to fight this. He's watching. They're lining up their smokes. He's going to get into a more aggressive position. They'll never expect him to be here. Absolutely no chance. They're all going to go walking past. He's got a chance again at a multi-frag. Is he going to get it done this time? It's 2 at least. And he's retrieved the AWP. Redemption for Rigon. And he's put his team in with a chance.
It's a chance, but he does get headshot instantly, and that puts it down to Snappy on 46 HP. Rigon really couldn't have done too much more. And now the Dane has his hands on an AK. The bomb is traversing. across rapidly onto B site, where Brokey will get it planted. coldzera is waiting, close angle. There's a knife out for Snappy, and that will be all she wrote for Train. FaZe get it done. They break the hearts of c0ntact and take their choice of map.
Oh, someone's already out of the chair. They've jogged off after that one. But yeah, it was an impressive performance from them. I think obviously it's hard to consistently break down c0ntact with just the power of the individuals they have, but you sort of have to talk about some of the misplays again from them. Like, they definitely had opportunities in some of these rounds to win them out. Like, Rig on multiple occasions. The last round, he definitely gets it through, but he had a bad game. That's all I can really say. I'm not going to sit here and like harp on him for half an hour about all the things that went wrong, because I think he'll know them better than I will. And although we had some moments from Spink, Snappy as well with a few clutches, with all of that added up, it just came down to their basic buy rounds, especially on the T side. Either way, we still have some time to break this one down, so we're going to go off to a short break, and we'll be back after. Well, it was a relatively close game in the end, but you do feel like FaZe seemed to be in control for the majority of it. Some nice plays coming out of Spinks. We saw a bit from Snappy as well in terms of clutches, but ultimately we got the majority of FaZe online in this match, Vince, which is something I don't think we've seen too often. In fact, in a lot of their recent games, it's either been Brokey or bust.
Yeah, and this was a Kirby carry. Like, let's be honest here. It was Kirby and Rain. Rain also was doing a really solid job, as he so often does. That Kirby play was absolutely insane. And I mean, speaking of Brokey, we will have a replay coming up soon. His 1v2 clutch that he pulled off. He actually didn't even need to kill both the players, but it had so much impact. This is a Snappy play that we saw earlier on. And then Olof, who went for the wide swing, guessed incorrectly, was picked off. That is the shot there that absolutely sent shockwaves down the spine of c0ntact. And I don't think they ever really recovered after that clutch, Tom. It felt like that was the finishing blow.
But that was the thing with this match, is like, I feel like you sort of mentioned it already, but like Kirby and Rain, I feel like even Cold in his B-side defense as well were just fragging on all cylinders. But then they had each individual player like winning the multiple clutch rounds. And as you sort of mentioned, like the Brokey play, which I hope we can queue up in a second, is just going to be one of those ones where it's like, that was a chance that maybe they could have turned the tide. So let's bring that one up. I want to see that crazy sort of, well, quick scope, I guess we call it, again. Like, this was just utterly ridiculous, but it was in such an important time in the game to basically just almost put them to bed, I guess.
Yeah, and then after the crazy shot, he obviously playing with his food a little bit. There's no real chance at that stage without a kit. But yeah, that for me was the body blow. That's when everything kind of fell into place for FaZe. Again, though, I find myself feeling the same way as I did yesterday, Tom. c0ntact had chances to win this game. It's not like they got completely blown out like North did earlier today. They actually held their ground. They actually had chances this match. They just couldn't deliver.
Yeah. I feel like the problem is as well is they have rounds that they win that they shouldn't, and then they have rounds that they lose which they also shouldn't. Like, there were big plays throughout this game. Like, I even think back to the last round where Rigon gets behind them. He manages to get a multi-frag. And like, I'm so focused on what he's doing, I don't realize that at the same time, every other player on c0ntact has just died. And it's basically just left down to Snappy. And it's like, you kind of wonder how, if a player's creating that much of a distraction, how it just goes so wrong in other avenues. Then you have the bad side of Rigon as well, where it was like he was flashed into an angle, both players completely blind, and he just gets nothing done. So I do sort of question if maybe it's like a bad day at the office for some of their players, but the fact is that just seems to be the case of this roster at the moment. Like, sure, if they all come online, like throughout the qualifier, they looked pretty good. They managed to like dominate most of the teams they played against, but then that's not really enough. And with them potentially going out in last place, sure, no one came into this and was like, okay, c0ntact have got to win DreamHack Masters. But I'm starting to question, if you are c0ntact, if you've got teams in Overwatch, you've like got a spot in the COD League, and you're looking at your Counter-Strike team, you're currently sat there going, well, why do we keep these players on? They're currently 55th in the world or something like that. We could probably pick up a top 30 team, and it probably wouldn't be crazy in terms of breaking the bank.
No, I think that's a fair thing to say. Maybe some roster changes may come in, but they did run into two pretty good teams. You know, Heroic first right off the bat, like 4th in the world. FaZe are like 10th, I think. So, you know, in terms of top tier tournaments, they've been a bit hard done by. They're not out of this just yet. They can come back in this second map. It's mainly for me, they just lost their map of Train. When you look at statistically, Kirby, 27 kills, 105 ADR, 1.48 rating. Well, I can't remember the last time I saw a guy playing this well from his perspective. I don't remember seeing this form for quite a while now.
Yeah, luckily, obviously, both of these teams statistically are not fantastic on Dust 2. And I do think if we see c0ntact step up to the marker, it is also possible that they do bring this back. But they are going to need their stars to align. And on the other side of things, you have to bear in mind that FaZe have been probably playing much better opposition. They've been up against the tier 1 for a long time. So the statistics really don't matter too much. c0ntact Gaming, they are on the brink of being kicked out of this tournament, and they're going to have to try and fight back on their opponent's map choice. The question is, Vince, are they going to bring this back? We'll see after the break.